Tức là anh nghĩ chắc mình bắt đầu rồi thì các bạn vào sau thì có thể mình dự sau thôi. Không biết các bạn sẽ lâu nữa. Anh nghĩ thì cái thời gian vừa rồi chắc hẳn là mọi người cũng trải qua một cái thời gian maybe có thể gọi là đáng nhớ nhất. Đối với anh, bản thân anh cũng vậy, là một cái trải qua Covid-19 không dễ dàng gì. Có những lúc mình thấy là cái dịch nó đến với mình rất là gần. Thật ra là có cái thời điểm mà anh vừa meeting xong với lại một anh mà anh vừa biết tin là anh đó là F1, tức là ngồi chung chuyến bay với lại một bạn có nhiễm Covid. Sau đó anh này có dấu hiệu là cũng sốt và bị cách ly. Tuy nhiên là may mắn là anh đó cuối cùng là cuối cùng là âm tính. Thì có nghĩa là có những lúc mình thấy cái dịch nó đến rất gần với mình thì mình sẽ rơi rất là dễ rơi vào những cảm giác như là lo lắng rồi sợ sệt, không biết khi nào sẽ tới lượt mình, kiểu như vậy. Rồi ở nhà nhiều thì sẽ có những cái cảm giác giống như là cảm thấy cô đơn, bị cô lập cái phía bên ngoài. Tuy nhiên ở một cái khía cạnh khác thì anh thấy nó cũng là một cái điểm hay ở chỗ là ví dụ bản thân anh mình sẽ có cơ hội là dành nhiều thời gian hơn cho gia đình, cho người thân của mình, mà bình thường cái cuộc sống của mình nó vội vã, mình sẽ không có thể làm được cái chuyện đó. Cái thứ hai nữa là anh được trải nghiệm những cái cách làm việc mới, trải nghiệm những công nghệ mới, và bản thân anh cũng học được đang học một cái kỹ năng mới, đó là kỹ năng thuyết trình trước đám đông nhưng mà virtually thông qua nền tảng YouTube, thông qua những cái live meeting. Thì trước đây anh nghĩ cũng đơn giản thôi, giống như là cũng chẳng qua là cái kỹ năng thuyết trình trước đám đông mình, cái kỹ năng về presentation. Tuy nhiên là nó thật sự là một cái trải nghiệm rất là khác khi mình present trước đám đông nhưng mà là face to face, tương tác trực tiếp với nhau, và trước đám đông nhưng mà mình lại không thấy được cái đám đông của mình đang ngồi ở đâu. Như vậy thì cái cảm giác, cái mức độ về engagement, về cái tương tác nó sẽ khác đi rất là nhiều, và mình phải phát triển cái kỹ năng từ nói chuyện một mình rất là nhiều, rất là cao. Thì đó cũng là một trải nghiệm rất là thú vị của anh. Cho tới bây giờ anh vẫn đang tiếp tục phát triển và học hỏi cái kỹ năng đó. Ok, thì nó cũng là một cái tin vui. Thì hiện tại là cái Covid đang tạm thời là gọi là kiểm soát được ở Việt Nam. Tuy nhiên tình hình thế giới nó cũng diễn biến rất là phức tạp, thì mong mọi người cũng không có quá chủ quan. Và cái section hôm nay mình sẽ nói bằng tiếng Anh, thì anh cũng sẽ chuyển qua tiếng Anh từ từ ha. Thì cái emotional intelligence hay là cái well-being nó sẽ thành rất là quan trọng. Nó giúp mình, tại vì sau cái Covid, tuy nhiên là có thể sẽ có những cái crisis hay những cái sự kiện tương tự có thể nó xảy ra trong tương lai, hoặc là cái Covid đâu đó nó vẫn chưa có hết thì có thể nó sẽ quay trở lại. Thì chúng ta cũng phải chuẩn bị tinh thần sẵn sàng về mặt thể chất, về mặt tinh thần. Thì đó là lý do mà anh muốn thực hiện cái buổi chia sẻ hôm nay về cái mental health. So today I would like to also I invited My Holland. So she is like founders and CEO of EQuest Asia, a consulting firm, and she is an expert in emotional intelligence. So today she will share her tips on how to navigate through the COVID crisis or any crisis like that, to help us like to have a happier life. That's the purpose of the sharing today. So welcome on stage, Miss My Holland, my friend. So can you just briefly introduce yourself first?
Yeah. So hi everyone. So my name is My Holland. Actually, it's me. But my as Han was saying today, so this session is going to be in English because my Vietnamese is very Frenchy. So I was born in France. So I think that my English and French and Japanese is probably better than my Vietnamese. So I do apologize. But I'm really glad that we are all here together, and thank you very much for being here with us on Saturday, especially Saturday morning, because I'm sure that you have a lot of things you want to do. But if you are here with us today, it's because you are seeing that mental well-being, mental health is very, very important, especially now. So thank you, Tan, for this. So basically, we are in Vietnam now for the last 2 years, and we're absolutely delighted to be here. So let me start with showing a few slides, and then we can just start to gather the sessions. And I believe that we will have questions at the end, so do prepare them, because I think it's very important that you are making the most of this session and be prepared, because it's not just about COVID. As Tan said, it's really about any kind of stress that you are going through. All those tips that I'm sharing today will help you to navigate with future unplanned, unscheduled challenges. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so basically, so we're going to have a few slides together today. So that is basically what I like to share with you today. So most of you are very young. You're probably the same age as my own children. So it's very special for me to be with you today, because I was actually a lecturer in university in Australia. So you are very special people for me today, because I really like engaging with young people, dynamic people, and people who want to learn. So I'll tell you a little bit more about me, so then you understand the transition, why I'm moving into emotional well-being. So I started my career as a stockbroker in Paris, and I made a lot of money, because I was working for a Japanese security house. So my background in terms of business background, I have 2 masters in business, so one from France and one from the US. So in terms of academic and professional, things that I really liked, that was very good. So I mostly work in business development, and I have to say I made a lot of money, working in USA, Hong Kong, Japan, and whatever. But what I really found is that all those experiences actually helped me just to see that this is not what I was about. What really drives me is, making seeing people engage with life, engage with work. And this is why I started to move into mindfulness. So MBSR is really working with people and companies working with mindfulness, so then they can be more engaged and happier in life. Emotional intelligence is exactly the same thing. Positive resilience, positive psychology is exactly the same thing. It's helping you, people, to be more engaged in about what you are doing. So it's very important, and this is why I really made that transition from, being in business development, stock exchange, towards helping people to find a better way and better life. Okay. So, Isaac, I think we all agree with this. You are working with youth leadership, and this is your responsibility, to be well. You have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of drive, you want to do a lot of things in your life, and this is your generation. And I think this is absolutely amazing that you guys can do things that, my generation, or my parents' generation, didn't see that as a priority. So this is crucial for you to be well. So not only physically, but physically, of course, but really mentally. So COVID-19 is challenging all those thoughts, because we usually prioritize, physical well-being, but we neglect, mental well-being, and neglecting emotional well-being has a toll. So this is something really important, and we have slides later just to show you why your generation is actually more prone to stress than the previous generation. So because you are all ISAC people here, you are understanding that, the mind to be a successful leader is actually crucial. So it's not about only your capacity, not only about your skills, your knowledge, but you need to be strong mentally. So to be strong mentally, you really have to look through your emotional intelligence, your resilience, especially now, and neuroscience, which is about understanding your brain. Once the brain is tired, you cannot make the right decision. Mindfulness, so then you can really deal with stress. Psychologically well-being and flourishing is so happier, because who doesn't want to be happy in life, right? So this is really our model of leadership, and I really would like you to, to pause and see what is it already that you're doing? You know, do you pay enough attention to your emotions? Do you pay enough attention to quieting the mind? Okay, so let's move on. I think we all agree with this slide. You know, so it's time to move on. 2020 has started with a lot of unexpected drama, but we have gone through it, and Vietnam is doing really well. So today, what I really want us to do is to move to a journey where you can really have all the skills and all the strategies, so then you are prepared for the next one as well. Because stress is not just about COVID. Stress is, you know, every day can be a stressful day, but it's up to you how you deal with it. Okay. So we have a few prizes. So this is Hạnh phúc là lối ta đi. So this is my book, which was translated from English, which has been published on Amazon in the US. So this is in Vietnamese, and I think that Han later on with his platform, you know, can choose randomly, you know, 2 winners, and also the 2 people who are the most engaged in the chat room. So do ask questions, do share, and do really participate, because you have all the chance to have in your, you know, mailbox a happy book. Okay.
I read Rose, the book contains. Can you introduce a little bit more about the content of the book?
So the content of the book is really making like a 101 of happiness. It's really helping you to realize that it is possible. You don't have to buy happiness or buy product or buy whatsoever, but all what you have is inside you. So your inner resilience, your inner happiness, you have it already. So it's really about, you know, wanting what you have already. So if you have good sleep or good eating or good mind habit, this is really the recipe, and strong sense of purpose. That is really the recipe of, you know, having a happier and more meaningful life. And this is all what I want. This is all what we want to have, I think. Okay. So let's start. Okay, so the roadmap of today is I want to, you know, to talk briefly about the power of EQ, so the power of emotional intelligence, because we have the choice to be able to manage our emotions. Okay, so I'm going then to talk about the stress and your generation. So most of you are very young, so you're probably a millennial and Gen Z as well, Gen Y, so very young, and this is actually the generation which are more vulnerable to stress. Okay, so we're going to talk about this, and then we're talking also about impact of social media and stress, and strategies for you to move forward. So we have a few polls during the session, so be ready to play with us, and we have a chat room as well. So do write your questions or any comments you want. And the objective of today is really, I like you to understand that stress is subjective. Stress, you don't have to go through stress if you don't want to. So everything is about your point of resilience. And resilience is actually a skill in emotional intelligence. So we can work on it. Okay, so you all with me? You're all good. All right. So poll number 0. So the first poll that we're having, I'd like you just to, you know, to really understand, you know, those 4 concept that I'm writing here. So you have emotional courage, and you have emotional agility, and then you have courageous awareness to act, and you also have an emotional deficit. So what I like you to do is actually to be able to reflect on what it is that you are struggling with at the moment. So what is it that it's resonating with you? What those concept means for you. So do you have the courage to say, like, today I'm not well, today I'm not okay, last week I was terrible? Do you have that courage? And it is a courage to accept that kind of emotion. So this is really the first point of emotional intelligence. Then the emotional agility is really, are you able to move from being, you know, well and being stressed and being resilient and being thriving? Do you have that kind of agility? As you know, you see, this is really a question here. And then do you have the courage and the awareness to act on it? If you know that you're not well, if you know that you're down, do you pretend, or do you show a happy face, Or do you say to other people, well, I'm not well, but let's talk about it with someone that I can have a conversation with. And emotional deficit is now with COVID, and we are going towards the end of it, but do you have like a deficit of positive emotions? I'd like you to be able to reflect on that. What kind of deficit are you going through? Which means, do you have much more negative emotions than positive, which is a deficit? And what is it that you can do to be able to balance again that deficit? Then the positive emotions are equal to the negative one. How can we have the balance on the other side, more positive emotions towards the negative one? So I think that we have...
most people choose emotional agility and courageous awareness.
Good, all right. So that is excellent. I'm very happy to hear this. And this is really good, to have you wanting to act on it, okay? So it's not about ignoring, and this is the first things in psychology we say, you have to act on it, okay? So well done, everyone. So this is just a start with us. Okay, so let's talk now about the power of EQ, okay? So the power of emotional intelligence, okay? So you can hear EI or EQ, it's the same thing. And you also have the other concept on the other side, which is more the cognitive intelligence, so the IQ. So most of you are doing really well, you're doing really great studies, and you are prepared for the next life, okay, the next career that you're going to have. But please do not neglect what you are good on also is not neglecting your power of EQ. So this is what I'd like to share today, is not neglecting that bit. Okay, so in one very quick slide, what I'd like us to be aware is that you are able to increase your emotional intelligence, so then to increase your well-being, your emotional well-being, and your happiness. Okay, so we all know that great leaders need to have high EQ. I think that we all know about that. So it starts with having a stronger sense of awareness, and then you can manage the type of emotions, the type of situation that you have for yourself. And then when you have the understanding of yourself, self-awareness and the self-management, then you can move to the others, which is about social awareness and relationship management. So it's really being able to know what's happening with yourself first. Okay, this is the starting point. You cannot know anyone else unless you start with yourself. And starting with yourself means that when you're not well, when you are feeling that you are having frustration, anger, rage, boredom, or deceptions or whatever, disappointment, is what do you do about it? So when you start to act on autopilot, this is not acting with EQ. So acting with proactive thinking, that is really working with emotional intelligence. And we all have the power to work on it. Okay? So here I just put a slide. So this is pre-COVID, okay? So this is for you to have a look that women and men have actually roughly the same EQ. So on the red graph, the red lines is for women, the EQ for women, and on the blue lines is mostly for men. So in average, men and women have the same EQ, roughly. But if you start to look into the components, it's very, very different. Okay? So women and men manage negative emotions and positive emotions and empathy very differently. So it seems like women have more challenges when they have to face with challenging emotions. Okay, we can see them more prone to be more emotional, crying whatsoever, which is part of being a woman. So it's nothing wrong about it. But men, on the other side, don't show it. So this is a gender-specific thing. So what I'd like you to remember is we can work on how we want to navigate emotions, but also we can work on optimism. We can work on our vocabulary, so then we can connect with our body and our emotions better. So all those skills, you can really work on it. Okay, so you can see the little cartoons on the left of the screen, and I would like you to reflect on that. Okay, so you have one same situation, but different ways of reacting. So one woman, one mother is teaching the other child to look for the future and helping the child to have more EQ skills, while the other women are actually putting down on people. So what I'd like you to see is you can act and you can respond, with intention rather than, submitting to situation and saying that you can't do anything about it. So in EQ, we can also measure, your high intention, your high purpose as well. By doing this, it's very important because you will be able to connect with your emotions quicker and better. So let's have a quick check-in here, and I'd like you just to be in the chat room here and just say right now what kind of emotions you are feeling right now. Okay, so any kind of cảm xúc. Okay, so any kind of emotion, so 1 or 2 words in Vietnamese or 1 word in English or any language that you want, but just say in that chat room, just share in your chat room, whatever you want, what type of emotions you are feeling right now. And this is really the first step that we do in emotional intelligence, is helping you to reconnect with what you have. So if you are saying, I feel good, or I feel okay, good and okay, it's not an emotion. So I'd like you to go deeper, to go, what is it that you're feeling right now? So you can feel curious, you can feel perplexed, or you can feel happy, or you can feel frustrated, or you can feel tired, whatsoever. It does not matter. We are not here to judge. What I want you to do is to be able to check in with your emotions, okay? So continue in the chat room, and this is really for you. So this is the first exercise that we're doing, okay? So we have the poll number 1, which is going to be displayed here with you. And poll number 1 is asking about your motivation for being here. So basically, putting out your intention. Why are you here? So is it because you are curious, or is it because you have free time and you were bored, or you're sick of Netflix movies, or you want to improve yourself, or you're struggling with your emotions, your anxiety, your stress, your anger, or any reasons? So I'd like you just to be honest about it, and just take as many as you want. And this is really what we want you to do, is to be able to connect with yourself, to connect with your intention while you're here. Okay, so that is it's something that we always do, is to help people to have an intention. So when we do something, we need to be clear and have clear guidance about what we want to do and what we want to achieve from that. Okay, so when we have enough results, I think that HANC can share with us. So you can tick as many as you want, and we are going to share the result when HANC is ready about it. Okay, so I think we have it on the screen. And let's move on to the stress. Do we have enough results or not yet? Okay, so please do continue, and we're moving on to this one. So I'd like to talk about the stress and your generation, and I think that's crucial that you are understanding why it's important to understand that stress has actually a bigger impact on your generation, so the young generation. Okay, so okay, let's move on to the next one. So if you have finished the first poll, so do we have enough data about?
So actually they have the curiosity and they want to improve yourself and struggling with something.
Okay, so struggling with anxiety, with stress, and want to improve yourself, and you're curious. So all of this, says a lot about you, why you're here. It's because you want to move forward. Okay, so you don't want to get stuck in those kind of negative emotions. So thank you for sharing. So we have a little poll here, and this is so we can know who is in the room or who is at home behind the screen or in the cafes. Okay, so are you Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, or maybe baby boomers? Okay, so can you rate your level of stress, of loneliness, of happiness, social media, and connection? Okay, so I think it's very important because I want you to be honest with yourself and talk about those issues, and because they are actually the root of the challenges that your generation is going through. Okay, so rate your level of stress, your loneliness, happiness, and your social media connection. Okay. So while you're doing this, I'm just going to move to the next slide so that you understand why we're asking these questions. Okay, so you can see here on the screen the link between stress, loneliness, happiness, and your generation. So this is from UC Berkeley in the States, and you can see that, so you're very young, so it's probably between 20 age until 35. So you can see that your generation has the highest level of stress compared to, older or more mature people. Okay, so you can see it. But what is also interesting is that you also have the highest rate of loneliness, which is really, really strange because most of you, I'm sure, are very highly connected. And if you can also see, very interestingly, on the graph, on the yellow graph, that happiness level is lower for your generation compared to older generation. So this is something that I really like you to keep in mind because it's linked to what's happening here. Okay. So Vietnam is doing actually very well in terms of wellness, and I would like us to remember that Vietnam is doing really, really well. Because you read a lot of stuff about Vietnam in terms of happiness ranking. So we are number 94, I think, and Finland and Sweden are the top happy country, and Vietnam is number 94. What I like us to remember is Vietnam is actually doing really well in terms of the global wellness index. In terms of blood pressure, of obesity, depression, happiness, alcohol use, tobacco, exercise, healthy lifestyle, we are doing well. And I like you to remember that. We have a healthy lifestyle, and we have friends, and we have family support, and other countries might not have it. So do remember this because this is a good statistic to remember. Okay? And why we are talking about, so do we have the result on the poll number 2? Not yet. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Well, I'd like us to have a look. So we don't have numbers for Vietnam, but I'd like you just to think about it. So maybe not having a poll, but really have a think about it. Because of COVID, we work a lot, and we work longer hours, and we don't have the feeling that we are working because we are working from home, right? Or we're studying from home. So the issue is, as you can see on the screen, like we are working much longer hours than before. And because we are longer hours at home or wherever, working from home, that's a new way of working, it's adding to stress. Okay, it's adding to stress, and we don't have the feeling that we are stressed because we think that we're working from home in the comfort of home. So this is absolutely not true. Okay, the numbers of hours is linked to your level of stress. So I'd like you to be more careful and be more mindful about the hours that you are putting into work. Maybe we can work smarter and having less hours. So having further breaks, and all those kind of things that you might know already. Okay. So when we're coming back, so we're working longer hours, but you can see we're also more anxious. Remember the first slide? And now we have it per generation. Okay, so Gen Z, probably your generation, and the millennials have the highest score of stress. Okay, so this is before COVID. So, being anxious, being stressed, anxious is even stronger than stress. So 54 and 40% of you guys are already heavily stressed. Okay, so this is really your generation. So before COVID, so this is, your level of worries and stress, and look at what's happening now, in terms of stress level going up and enjoyment going down. Okay, so I think we all know about this, so we're not going to spend too much time on this, but this is reality, and this is something that we need to remember. So we are working longer hours, and we are more stressed and anxious, and we have less enjoyment in life. So this is, linked to generation as well. Okay, so the issue with anxiety and stress is that we are focusing on short-term survival. So when we're looking into short-term survival, that means that you don't look about what's happening to you, in 6 months' time, 1 year time, 2 years' time, because it's completely normal to be able just to think about what's happening to me right now. Am I going to be okay today, now, and tomorrow? So that is something that you need to remember. So when you're going to, future career, interesting job, challenging job, remember that each time you stress, your focus is in shorter term survival. So, keeping that in mind, so you might neglect or you might forget actually the impact of stress. Okay, so if you are sleeping, maybe you're doing your 7 or 8 hours, which is what you want to do. But if you are waking up in the morning tired, that means probably that you are stressed. Okay, if you start to realize that you're making mistakes, same thing. If you're realizing that you are not as productive as you used to, and that is probably you also because of stress. If you are realizing that you have a lack of clarity and you're tired most of the time and you have poor concentration and focus, it's most likely that you're stressed. So the problem with us is that we don't recognize it. We think that it's okay. And we don't remember that we're all human beings and we have to accept that both signs are signs of being stressed. Okay? So I'd like now just to move on to actually the impact of social media and stress. And your generation, as we know, are really the generation, basically you're born on a computer, everybody has a smartphone, and it's normal. Okay? So let's go through the poll number 4 here. And I'd like you just to be honest with yourself and just reply to those questions. So are your smartphone, computers, or other devices in the same room as you at night time? Basically, do you sleep with your smartphone or computer next to you? Are you checking news or on your phone? Okay, so this is really a strong question as well. Do you check your phone when you wake up? So when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you do? What is the first thing you do? Do you grab out your phone and check the news or social media or whatsoever? Okay? Do you check your phone before sleeping? Okay? And can you live without your smartphone? And I know the answer to that one.
50-50.
Okay. And do you exercise daily? Gym, pool, yoga, whatsoever, running, badminton, whatsoever. And I think it's very important to be honest about those questions because it's a lot of studies saying that your generation, that rather than the previous generations, are very addicted actually to smartphones. And this is normal in the sense that, we use it every day, so we're getting used to it, but we don't always realize that we are addicted to having a phone with us all the time. The problem is it has an enormous impact on stress level and emotional well-being. Okay? So we have 50-50, is it, you say?
Yeah, I mean, who can live without a phone, a smartphone?
Wow, okay. So what about the other questions? So do we have...
So most people have a smartphone in the same room, have to check news on phone. They 100% have, check phones and wake up and before sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
the good news is all, like most of them, they do exercise as well, more than 3 times a week.
Okay, that is excellent. Continue that one. That can really offset, the of stress impact on you. Okay, so that is something that that I think is important because when I talk about addiction, it's actually an addiction. So if someone drink alcohol or someone cannot live without alcohol or drugs or whatsoever, we call it an addiction. But I think what is the new reality is we should actually also call, that RT is an RT addiction. So I'd like to go through this with you. So this is a lot of study that we are doing. because addiction is actually the new issue for your generation especially, okay? So basically the question is, how is your addiction to feeling connected? Okay, so when we have social media, when we have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those things, we want to be connected, and we have thousands of friends. Okay, so let's go through this, and I really want you to remember this. So you remember the previous slide when we talk about the level of happiness, stress, and loneliness. Do you remember that one? So that depends really on age, but think about the level and the impact of loneliness on people. So can you imagine that people in Japan still, maybe only, not big things, but still in shops, so then they can go to prison, okay? They can go to jail. And what is it for? It's because they don't want to feel lonely, okay? They don't have smartphone, so they don't want to be lonely. So this, what is it that you can think of, can you live, 50% say that, of you saying that I cannot live without a phone. Can you feel and can you accept to feel lonely so then you don't feel connected, but then you can connect with people in a different way, okay? So you can see from Inc. and Forbes, loneliness is actually an enormous issue now. We're talking about, as bad as smoking, okay, as little. So this is something that I'd like us to remember, because this is something relatively new for this generation, relatively new. And if you can, you might have seen in the UK, we have a Ministry of Loneliness. So this is a real issue of, wanting to feel connected, and therefore we are connecting through smartphone. This is a research I really want to share with you here, is because actually, so this is, an experience with rats, okay, and with addiction to drugs, okay, heavy drugs. And they were basically looking through samples of rats with addiction of heavy drugs and how to cure them. So one was really helping them just to see what is their choice. Do they want to find more friends rats, so then they can win from their addiction of heavy drugs, and is it happening or not? And what they found is exactly this, that the mice which were totally addicted with heavy drugs were actually, they preferred to be with friends rat rather than being addiction. So this is what I'm saying. So we need to feel connected. It's exactly the same for women, for men and women, and all the generation. So we need to feel connected. So that smartphone is actually, our drugs. Okay, so this is why I'm calling it an addiction. Okay, so to be able to move forward, so we have a few strategies here that I'd like to share with you. Okay, so what I'd like you to avoid is avoiding. And this is the question when we ask at the start, how are you feeling? How are you really feeling? If we always say with a smiley face, when we go to work and see our friends, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Fine is not an emotion, remember. But if we try to avoid, saying that actually I'm not that fine, I feel down, I feel sad. It's a reality. We need to accept that is happening to you. We need, in EQ, we need to accept that this is happening to you. Because what are you feeling says a lot. There's a lot of meaning behind each emotion. So if you are not feeling good, that's fine. You are human. You are not Superman or Superwoman. So this is something that I like you really to remember, is to accept any kind of emotions that you're going through. And this is very, very important, especially more for men than for women, because you have that gender stereotype thing about, I need to be strong, I need to be okay, and I cannot be seen. So please reflect on it, because we work a lot with people who went through very tough time, and actually the story of HANC in my book is actually based on a very sad story that we lost a few students in Australia due to depression, and they committed suicide. So it does happen, but I don't want you to go through that phase. So we need to know when we need to ask for help. It's okay not to feel alright, but we need to ask for help. Okay? So forget the concept of I'm a Superman, Superwoman, I can do it. We need help, we ask for help. Okay, so this is really crucial tip, and it's very, very important, especially in Asia, because we don't always want to accept that we are not well. Okay, so the cost of avoidance strategies. So when we're not well, what do? We stay home, we close the door, we go on social media. Remember what we talk about social, addiction with Facebook, Instagram, whatsoever. Maybe we go drinking, we drink even more, we go gaming, shopping, and we have all those sports that we don't like, but we are putting them aside. And that is completely wrong, because we don't want you to go through that unsustainable way of doing. Okay? So those strategies don't work, and a lot of us are doing it. So what I'd like us today, you to do, is to be aware. Okay? Like in EQ, self-awareness, start to be aware of what's happening to you. Do you spend too much time shopping, drinking, or gaming, or too much time by yourself? Okay? So noticing this, noticing those thoughts, noticing what's happening to you. Because no one is going to tell you unless you want to be helped. Okay? So asking for help. Okay? Strategies. Okay? So what we do in psychology is we are naming and reframing. Okay? So what is happening to us is, you can really reframe with a more positive way of seeing the issues. Okay? So this is what we call cognitive reframing. Then we can accept vulnerability. Okay? So it's okay not to be okay. That's fine. Okay? So accept it rather than avoiding it. Okay? Be prepared to experience anxiety. And then there's a lot of research are saying that, when we know we're anxious, but we know what to do about it, you will actually feel less anxious. Okay? So preparation, mental preparation. And sleep more. Okay? So if you are having a smartphone next to your bed, it is unlikely that you will sleep through because of those blue waves which is happening in your bedroom, which will prevent your dreams from doing the normal rave cycles. So all those issues are preventing you from sleeping, and if you don't sleep properly, if you feel tired in the morning, it's more chance of you to feel more down and self-doubt about yourself. Okay? So let's go through quickly about the strategies that we can do. So this is really to prepare you for the next sort of stress. So COVID is almost over, but I like you just to have strategies that you can adopt all the time. Okay, so whatever happens to your lifestyle, you have been working from home, and a lot of companies now are also working from home even now. What you need to do is to set a new routine. You need to tell your brain that you have a normal routine every day. Okay, so wake up at a normal time, even if you work from home. Wake up at a normal time, have a time to eat properly, sit properly, and have a to-do list and a to-be list as well. So then when you have that routine, the brain feels less stress. So you're really being proactive on that. Okay, so if you're working from home, even now, you need to set up a transition. Or even if you work in an office, you need to have a physical transition of your work. So then the brain can rest. Say, I'm going to open the door, and I'm going to walk out to take, a glass of water, whatsoever. Or to do, 3 stretches, or, if you can, do meditation, mindfulness. That's absolutely key thing to do to quiet the brain. You need to have a physical transition. So then the body is saying, I'm not working anymore, I can do something else. Okay? The brain is constantly worrying because you have a lot of thoughts. So things to do to quiet the brain is, listen to music, practice mindfulness, do yoga, do painting, do whatsoever. But you need to be in the flow. You need to be engaged in something that you want to do. Okay? So when you go through negative emotions, remember, if you don't do those exercises I mentioned before, if you don't know what you're feeling, you will go through a more intense negative emotions. And more intense emotions, when they're negative, they will drag you down the spiral towards depressions. So the more you notice what's happening on the top, then you know what to do, then you can stop it. But if you don't notice, you go down the spiral and you will go through depression. Okay? So it's really about noticing what's happening to you. So again, stuff you can do, go out. Okay? Go out and listen to music, see friends, like, not on social media, but see friends so that you can connect physically. Okay? So the other one is when we are stressed, we neglect our health. Okay? So plenty of things you can do. You can walk again, you can watch Netflix, you can do sports, like 50% of you are doing a lot of stuff on sports. Do that even more. Okay? So when we're stressed, remember what we said, we should thinking on the short term, and we're thinking that everything is about me. Is it only me who is sad? Is it only me who is down? Is it only me who is going through that tough time? So that is completely normal. But a lot of things you can do is actually what we do in positive psychology is we help people to say, hey, gratitude. Start to know what's happening to you. What is it that you want to have that you have already but you forgot? Okay? Maybe you're healthy. Have you noticed that you're healthy? So do all those activities, journal of gratitude, sports even more, really to boost up a lot of oxygen in the brain. Okay? So achievement and progress, which is very true, is because when we are stressed and anxious, we have the feeling that we don't achieve. And this is probably not true. So the things you can do is to write down on a piece of paper, in a journal, gratitude. You can say, what have you done already? What have you done, even a small thing? If you are very anxious, it is unlikely that you would go out, to find, look for friends and socialize. But if you go out, just write down, I have been out. And you notice that you have done something. So you need to see a list of small achievements so then you can get out of that anxiety for you. Okay? So a lot of things else you can do, and you can help, like doing community work, helping other students and other people, if they're struggling, or charities or NGO, you can work helping them. You have a lot of skills, show them, share them the skills, so that, you are helping people, but actually the people who are going to benefit the most of your help is you. Okay, so all those positive emotions is for you, as well as others, but for you is even stronger. So a lot of research are putting that. Okay, so basically facing COVID or any kind of stress is you need to focus on what is under your control. Okay, work on and acknowledge what's happening, what kind of thoughts you're having. Don't say that I'm super great when you're not. If you're down, just say today or now, I don't feel too good. Accept what's happening to you. Okay? So you reconnect with what's happening to you, and then you engage into what you want to do. The stuff you want to do. Maybe you like painting, maybe you like running, or going to the pool, whatsoever. But commit to what you want to do. By doing this, you are really connecting against with your values. Okay, what is important for you? Okay, if you want to be healthy, or want to, to help for charity, or want to help other people within ISEC, what is it that you want to do? When you really reconnect with those values, you will feel more energized, more positive, and your stress level will come down. Okay, because you feel that you are acting on what you can do. Okay, so basically this goes. So this is a graph which is a bit complicated, but this is, a lot of zones of where we're going. And I think that most of us have gone already. So we are not in a fear zone anymore when COVID happened. We're on the learning zone or the growth zone, and most of us now on the action zone, I think. So we are out of fear zone. That was probably, a few months ago. But now we know what's happening. We understand things, okay? We understand what's happening to us. Then we want to move forward. So this is why today we have that webinars, because we want to know what is it that I can do to grow and not getting stuck. into that, that phase. And then we have the action zone, and which is, what happened now. And I think on this one, and then we have the calling here, so the last one. And I like us to be honest about what's happening to us, So are you still, so for Vietnam, it's quite different from other countries. So are you still in the fear zone, or the learning zone, or the growth zone, or the action zone? So basically, this is basically the line, the growth of your journey and knowing where you're at. So if you are in a fear zone, it is very, very likely that you're highly under high stress and anxiety. Okay? Learning, growth, action, you have to move forward to more positive emotions because you want to move forward. So nothing that is important for you, just to know what is happening to me, where I'm at, and being actually practicing, those skills of emotional intelligence by being self-aware. Okay, so do we have enough people to have answered the questions? So please continue. Okay, I really like us to be able to connect with that zone, and then you know where you're at. Okay, so. Okay, so now we have a little, very short 60-second meditation. So you can see, for yourself in the future, you can use that link. It's called pixelthoughts.co. And what we can do is we can choose a word that we can put on the stressful thought at the start. Okay, so we can put a stressful thought into that space and just watch what's happening. Okay, so I want you just to feel relaxed and just watch that thought, which can be exciting, and just do it as the video. Okay, so that was only 60 seconds. Okay, so just imagine if you want to calm an anxious thought and you start to practice more and more and more mindfulness or meditation. There's a lot of apps, free on any app store. Really learn about how to quiet the mind. And you can see through that very short exercise here that your thought is just a thought. And we are creating stress because we are creating that thinking of about stress. So stress is actually a fabrication of our mind. But as you can see, if you put things into perspective, that thought is nothing and your life is still going on. So when you are able to distance yourself, to put yourself out of that space, you can actually say that anxious thought is just a thought. You don't need to listen to that thought so that you can be dragged into that negativity. Okay? So there's a lot of apps in mindfulness and meditation. I really would like to invite you to look around and practice. But this is just to give you an idea about how powerful that can be. Okay. So let's move to the next slide. still too quick. Okay, so the summary for today is I'd like you to remember that actually your generation has been labeled the anxiety generation, but you don't have to be like anxiety generation because you have learned how to deal with it. Okay, so few tools, few strategies that you have learned today. Okay, resilience is something that you can learn even if you start today. That doesn't matter. You know, whatever level you're at, it does not matter. It's something that you can always work on. Okay, so this is the basic things that we can do on EQ is that you can learn on. Okay, cognitive reframing mindset shift is up to you how you want to switch your mindset about feeling dragged by anxiety and stress or being in control. Saying, I can do things about it. So you can shift that mindset. Okay, so you can move away from fear. And remember what we talk about. We have strategies to avoid ignoring. Okay, ignoring what's happening to you is typically a strategy to avoid. A strategy to adopt. So then you can have more control into your stress level. Okay, so the takeaway is I'd like you to reduce, stop, if you can, the news notification. Really, really be mindful about the impact of social media. If you are not in control of it on the stress level. So a lot of research, from Harvard and Pennsylvania unis in the States, saying the level of stress that your generation is mostly due to an overuse of social media. Okay, so social media is great. I use it myself, but we have to be in control rather than social media controlling you. Okay, practice gratitude, especially in a journal. If you can think about, what is it that you have already that you have forgotten? Okay, so really want what you have already. Okay, the emotional check-in regularly, do it every day, and it's okay if you're not fine, but acknowledge it. So then you can move forward rather than just being stuck with it. And accept your emotions and act rather than not reacting. Okay, so any kind of emotion you're having, accept it because we are all human. We're all human. That means we have ups and downs, and today will be another different day than tomorrow. So accept that it's a roller coaster of emotions, but we would like it to be more stable, so we don't go too much for the negative. So we're not avoiding it, but we are managing it. And set up a routine of well-being. So you heard a few tips before, exercise, meditation, yoga, the transition. Physical transition, with phones, for instance, and exercise is definitely the most important one. And I really suggest that you do also mindfulness and yoga, these kind of things which quiet your mind. Okay. So a checkout here. So remember we did a check-in before at the start. So in the chat room, I'd like you just to think about how you're feeling now. Okay, so one word, okay, it can be in Vietnamese or 2 words in Vietnamese, fine. But I'd like you just to share about one action that you will adopt to manage stress and anxiety. One thing only that you can do. So we shared a few, but I'd like you just to think about what is it that you are going to be committed to do after this session, so to be able to manage the stress and anxiety. Okay, so we're not saying stopping stress and anxiety. We're talking about managing stress and anxiety because you can have control over it. Okay, so share it in the chat room, and I think that Han will go through it because of the books that he's going to choose as well. For the winners, if you've been very active in the chat room, so just choose one action that you are committed to do, so then you can manage proactively your stress and anxiety. Okay, so we have free resources on our website at EQuest Asia. We have a few ebooks for free. So those books are for sales on the slide here. But we have tips. Ebooks for free. We have free resources. We have free leadership blogs for you. So you just need to scan the QR code. And then I think I'll hand over to Tan for the Q&A session. And if we have any questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. It's really good sharings with a lot of tips about how to identify, how to check in every day your level of stress and well-being, etc. So there's a lot of questions so far on the app that I received so far. So actually, you can also check it and choose which one you want to answer first. So interesting questions, I think, in how to identify what exactly is making us stressed the most.
Oh, what exactly? Okay. Well, I think that we all need to remember that we are all human beings and we are all very different. So what we need to remember is we are different is because how our parents and grandparents educate us. So all those impact, all those influences have an impact on our resilience already. So this is why the point of resilience is very different from one person to another person. So my level of stress for something which I find is not very stressful can be an enormous stress for somebody else. So this is, something which you need to understand that, the more you go through challenges, the more you are going to try to do new things, which put you out of your comfort zone, will help you to develop, a stress resilience even bigger. And I'm telling you like a very small example. Can you please remember when you were, a little baby, a little child, maybe a long time ago for me, but less long time for you. Remember, like if you were a baby and you were walking and you were falling down on the street, what happened at that time? Would your parents, run towards you right away and pick you up and say, oh my gosh, this is so stressful and you are bleeding whatsoever, so they give you the stress level already? Or maybe you have another parent that says, oh, you just fell down, obviously, you're caring, and then your parent says, oh, are you okay? And then your child learns, yeah, mom, I'm fine. So this is the kind of things that, all those DNA of stress have actually been imprinted, from childhood already. Because we are learning, for example, through the level of stress from the people around you, and we pick up those stress levels. So which is very challenging because we can still work on it, but the more we work on doing something new and accepting that things can work out, things cannot work out, it doesn't matter, it's about continuing. And I think that is a mindset to adopt.
And maybe do you have any tips on what we should do or should not do when we talk to the others and try to help them overcome their issues, for example?
Well, avoid to do when you see somebody stressed, for instance, is avoid the should. Don't say, you should not feel like that. You should not feel whatsoever. The person, when they hear this, what they will do is they will shut down and they won't listen to you because that person has not been heard, not been listened to. What that person would like is when they're still stressed is being heard. Know that somebody is here for you. Have empathy, showing compassion, not giving advice unless that person asks for it. So it's basically don't fix the problem unless that person wants to. So be here and listen without judgment is the best way for you to help your friends. Sometimes it's just going out to a cafe together and just sit there and say nothing. This is maybe that person just wanted that. You don't know. So don't come and say, you should not feel that stress because it's okay. It's not a big deal. What is that person going to feel? Even more stressed. What is wrong with me? Am I that weak that I'm feeling that stress? So that is not helping that person at all. You will help them actually to go through the spiral of negativity even more. So don't give advice unless they ask for it, and help that person to accept what's happening for them, and listen with them.
Another question: have physical health directly impact or affects mental health?
Oh, enormous.
Or vice versa, yeah.
Oh, enormous. So if you guys behind here are not doing any sports, or like you are tomorrow, to go to the gym, to go jogging, to go badminton, to do whatsoever, but do absolutely whatever. Okay, so this is very good for the brain because it gives oxygen to the brain, and it gives you some dopamine as well, which stimulates the happy chemicals of being happy. Okay, so if you feel down, what you want to do normally is to stay home, at home and close the door. But the best things to do is to force yourself to go out and walk and jog and go swimming, play badminton, play whatever. It does not matter, but you will actually create a very good impact on your body, because the body will feel addicted to wanting to feel, to have all those happy chemicals coming to the brain. And that is the best addiction that you can do. It's going out, exercise. So people recommend about 30 minutes of minimum of heavy exercise per day. In our family, so we have two children, 20 years old. We all do physical exercise now, and it has been part of the routine now. So we don't even think about it. We wake up, we go to the pool. So we don't even think about it. So it's become an addiction, which is a very good addiction for physically, but also the brain health. Yeah. So please do it.
I think that one of the things that can make us stressed or depressed by comparing with the others. So the first one is how to stop feeling the feeling never enough, or how to stop comparing with the others. Because I know the Isaacers, they also have the campaigns to move from the feeling and the fears of missing, they want to transfer to the joy of missing out.
Yep.
So how to do that?
How to stop comparing?
Yeah.
Well, the comparison, and especially the social comparison, especially on Facebook, even if we don't do it consciously, we will do it because we want to know and we're curious about what's happening. So that is completely human. But the issue is when we start to compare, as you said, we will feel like something is not right with me. Why am I not doing right? Why am I not having a great time and enough money that person? But think again, is anyone going to post something not good on Facebook, for instance? Obviously not. So everything has been framed so that only the good stuff is out there. So this is the only good stuff that you see. So it's not the reality. So my suggestion is to use over social media wisely. So we use Facebook ourselves, but we use it wisely. So to be able to empower others to find more joy, to find more meaning, more purpose into their life. That will bring sustainable joy, sustainable happiness, rather than am I good enough or am I not good enough? So if you go back to that thing, which is very, very dangerous, because it starts to go through that spiral of being judged, because the most harsh person to judge yourself is yourself. It's not somebody else. Okay? So be kind to yourself, which means have more compassion for yourself. Have more, doing stuff for you, so then you can see, I'm enough. I do stuff for myself. I am enough. I don't need somebody else to validate that I need to do this and this and this. So if I want to do something, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it right or not right. One day it will be better, but you will need to compare with yourself rather than compare yourself to others. And that is a skill, but this is also a mindset shift. And it is possible. It's absolutely possible to do this. We work with a lot of people on that issue, but it takes time to build stronger inner confidence, self-esteem So, you know, when you really work on those qualities, which is, you know, what we do in self-awareness and EQ, when you have self-confidence and self-esteem, you don't need to compare yourself to others because you know who you are, you know your value, and you know your worth. So it is possible. So it's a mindset shift, you know, and enjoy.
Another question: how to improve emotional intelligence?
Oh, well, in 1 minute maybe not, but the first things that I shared today is acknowledge that we have been spending too much time on hard skill, on IQ, and now recognize that the other parts is as or even more important because you can work on it. So acknowledging what you're feeling, accepting the kind of emotion that you're feeling, trying to understand the meaning of an emotion behind, and act on it rather than reacting. So when you understand that schema, that journey, you understand that actually I can be proactive with my emotions. I can be, more aware of how I want to talk and to react or to connect with other people. So you are aware of yourself first, which is the hardest one. It takes quite a while to work on that. But when you really work on this, you see yourself as I know that I'm not good at this yet, but I will work on it. Rather than say, oh, I'm not good at it, and you stop there. Emotional intelligence is that you are a lot of areas of development, but you know that you can work on it. So you move forward. Okay? So tips is really about working more on empathy, working more on kindness for yourself, compassion for yourself, and being more aware of what's happening to you and the impact of you on others. And that is, you can ask for feedback about, to others. And how do you think I went into, when I did that meeting? You can ask others. Then you receive feedback and say, oh, okay, I have not noticed this. I can work on it. Next time, I will work on that better. So it's accepting that there's always room to move forward. So that is definitely the key to it.
Yes, question. I think that it's back to maybe the first question regarding how to identify exactly the cause, the root cause of the problem. So, but I think it's also important to name it, like how to name it at the first time it happened, or because it's usually we usually ignore it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Naming is really also important, right?
And I think the problem is that if I ask everyone here, how busy are you, or are you busy? Everyone will say yes, right? And that is the issue. Like now, we do much more things than 40 years ago, because we're constantly busy. But the problem is our brain has not evolved. Okay, we still have the same brain 40 years ago or now. And the brain is not a CPU of a computer. So the fact that we're constantly busy, we don't make time to be the best version of ourselves. And to be able to do this, we need to stop, to reflect, and just to say, what is it that I can do to be the best version of myself? So when we're talking about naming a situation, naming an emotions, that's means being able to stop. And being able to stop and notice is actually the first step that we do in mindfulness. So we are not doing, and not knowing what you're doing, but being busy. It's being able to accept that I'm busy, but I can't manage my busyness. And if I see my priority, my well-being and my emotional well-being as important or more important, I can stop, notice, and act on it. So not being dragged into the doing. And most of us are doing way too much. Yeah. So reflecting on how we want to be is quite challenging. So it's a priority.
All right, thank you, thanks a lot. There's still a lot of questions that a student is asking. So, but I think
That's good.
we're
That's
running
good that you
out of
insist.
time. So maybe you can like answer them later after this event.
That's fine.
Because we also have another interesting part. This lucky draw.
Yes.
So I would choose randomly on the system like 2 lucky members of today's section.
Oh, wow.
It's familiar face from last time. All right. So this is the result of the draw. This also pushed to the phone of this lucky winner. So we will contact you later to deliver the gift from our speakers. So all right. So maybe if like there's any, in summarize, any like condensed tips
version tips.
that you want to send to students.
Okay, so a very short summary is remember you are not Superman and Superwoman. Okay, that is something I really want you to remember, because if we accept what's happening to us, then we can act on it. But if Superman and Superwoman are in the room, they don't need anything. Okay, so this is really the key message here. Whatever happens to you, please accept it, and if you need any help, find help. That is the first thing to do. Second things, so you have a lot of strategies here, but the first things to do is, try to quiet the mind. Okay, through mindfulness, yoga, or work on the physical exercise. Sleep. Put your phones away. Put your phone away, especially when you sleep in your bedroom. Put it away, because you have always blue wave and you won't sleep properly. So meditation, if you can, but it's really, it's really the most important thing, is to be able to quiet the mind. And the third one is remember that any kind of thoughts that you are having is just a thought. The thought, you are creating it. If you say to yourself that you're not good enough, or you whatsoever, it's a thought that you have created. If you believe that you're not good, you will believe it. But you need to have that space to say, it's just a thought. I can get up from there. And it's not true, because look at what I have done so far. So, that is a very condensed summary of it.
Thank you for your sharing. Actually, I have my question, because I know the importance of the sleep, but I usually don't have enough time for sleep, because I have a lot of things to do. I have family works, I have our projects, I have family time, I have to play with my children, I have to do my exercise in the morning. A lot of things to do, so I need more time to sleep. How to I know the importance of the sleeping.
Put it as a priority.
Right.
Priority. And what you have to remember, and this is for everyone, you need to remember that you cannot buy health. You cannot have a magic pill to have good health. Good health starts with good sleep. And if you can find 7 hours of good sleep with your phone away, I can guarantee you that in the morning you will wake up not tired. Okay, and this is really something that I like you to do. Put your phone away from your room. In the morning you can wake up, take your room, take the things, but you have to physically go and take it, which is your decision. So if you can do your 7 or 8 hours a night, your brain will rest and you will be much stronger in terms of emotional management. So yes, a priority for you.
Right. All right, thank you. Thanks again for your time this morning. Applause for our speakers. It's really good and helpful session for our young people and students. I believe that they got a lot of things from today's session as well.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you for listening. And do practice and do listen again to practice positive and sleep well. Follow away, please.
And of course, our student can follow you on LinkedIn or somewhere else.
And Facebook.
For,
And I'm on Facebook.
All right.